Okay, this is my second take because, I just had quite a brilliant speech, I thought myself, but I didn't push the button right, so nothing was recorded. So, sorry about this little confusing introduction. Hi again. Today I want to talk about a topic that came very vividly on my screen this morning, and it's about the victim role. And it's probably very related to all the chaos that's happening right now in the United States, and which is going across the world about the injustice being done or being felt. And I'm not going to talk about that topic, but the victim role came up. And us humans playing the victim role is a huge painful thing, and it's literally an illness in our societies. And I would like to explain why, and it's quite a complex role because it shows up in so many different ways, and we're so used to this role that we hardly recognize ourselves in this role. So it asks a lot of self-reflection to find all the little finesses, the little subtleties where you still play the victim. So I just want to put out one big huge disclaimer. This is not about children. So this is only for adults when I talk about when you play the victim role. So when harm is done to a child in whatever shape or form, that child is the victim, full stop. That is the pure definition of a victim, because that child is helpless and cannot defend him or herself. Even if it looks very innocent, it still is, harm is done, and that the child doesn't have the capabilities and the skills and the level of thinking and reacting that an adult should have or must have or can have. So we are used to being one with playing the victim very often in our lives. And if the person who plays the victim or steps into this victim role, so it doesn't mean that you're 100% of the time that you are the victim, but there are moments in time when you step into this victim role. And those moments often are when things don't feel so well or don't go so well, or someone tells you something and you don't really like the remark they're saying. And then you either have two, more or less generalizing, but two reactions. You either draw within yourself and you are frustrated and arguing and get anger and feel very sad about yourself, but you all keep it inwardly. And the way you do express your frustration and anger about your position as a victim is often very much in complaints. So you can easily complain about everything in this world, and you hardly ever complain about your own behavior. So you always put it outside of yourself in order not to feel that pain that's underneath this role of the victim. Because when we are allowing ourselves going into a low frequency, which the victim role is a very low frequency, and it's one of the ways that fear shows up. It shows up in our victim role. But underneath that there is a fear that you don't want to feel and don't want to show to yourself foremost, but definitely also not to others. The other way a victim shows up is the one who blames and who acts out in drama and who just blames the outer world constantly and making huge stories out of something that happens. And it really is a drama play because it is so outwardly spoken, and there is so much blame towards the outer world and no ability to look at their own role and their own position. A lot of drama comes with it. And it doesn't mean that the first category doesn't play drama, but it plays it in a very different way. It really plays the drama in I am small, I'm little, I cannot do anything, and I cannot help this situation. That's kind of drama. And you have the other person who plays drama, but just really puts it outwardly more like I'm in this position, and you are to blame, and I'm going to show you in many ways that I need my attention, I need your help to get me out of this situation. Well, of course, the truth is no one gets you out of a victim situation other than yourself. independent on the circumstances, and obviously not everybody is born in a very good place. So some are more lucky than others, but nevertheless, even the ones who are born very lucky in a very comfortable space are constantly playing the victim role and feeling that they are not able to change their position, and that they are kind of like, how do you say that? They give in to the circumstances that there is. It just is like this, you know? We cannot help it, it just is like this. Or I cannot help it because, well, life is like this. So everyone, regardless where you're born, regardless what your situation is, you are the only one who can change the situation. You're the only one who can change the dynamic. You're the only one who can change the victim role. And that is literally stepping into your own empowerment. And that's hard to do overnight, so that takes time, because most of us have been in this victim role for a very long time. And like I said in the beginning, it feels so normal and it feels so right for yourself that you're not even aware that you're doing it. So what I'm always find striking, that persons who had quite a severe youth or had been born in a place which was less fortunate often show a lot more inner strength and a lot more inner courage, or not inner, but just a lot more courage to make a change happen. They have this like drive within themselves, and not everyone, but some of them do, and we have many great examples on this planet. They have this inner drive to change, that they do it, they just are fed up with the situation they're in, and they dream about a better life, and they're gonna make it happen. And when you're born in a more lucky situation, you had no need for this drive. You had no need to find this inner power within yourself, because life was easy and comfortable. And you just went through the motions, and you had your education and your relationships, and of course you had your pains, but you know, it was all quite okay. No big dramas in its essence, even though you might have taken little situations and put them into a big drama, but that's because you needed that to get the attention and to feel seen again by your world. And everything comes down to the fact that we don't love ourselves enough, that we don't have enough self-worth, that we don't have enough self-esteem, and then we don't feel power within ourselves. And power, feeling within ourselves, is very different from power that's being used in a dominant way to overpower someone else, or misusing power and take control of a situation. Now when I talk about empowerment, it's also empowerment, it's not power, it's not just power, it's empowerment. It's literally empowering yourself and finding this strength within yourself, and the knowing that you can change anything on this planet. At least you can change anything in your life, so that your life on this planet will become thriving. And the first and foremost step is to recognize your victim role. When is it that you play the victim? When is it that you start blaming other people and look at yourself and at your own acts and at your own behavior, and where you are lazy in not doing things, and where you are easy on yourself instead of self-reflective and self-honest, and just sometimes you have to just face the truth in the mirror, and then you just have to admit that you could have done something else, that you could have made a different choice, that you could have learned that lesson which has been presented to you many times. Like I said before in other videos, we all get our lessons. Don't worry about that. It's not about to blame that we get the lessons. We just get the lessons. That's part of life. That's how we move on this planet. That's how we live here. That's how we go through life to learn and to grow. And we cannot grow if we don't feel pain. We hardly ever grow from only positive things. We always have to feel, up until now at least, in these current dynamics, we have to feel friction in order to liberate ourselves. We have to go through something like this dam in a river. We have to go through it in order to liberate ourselves. So yes, we do need to feel the pains. And yes, we have to be honest with ourselves that we might have made wrong choices in our life. and that we might have ended up in a place where we might not have chosen freely if we knew more before. But hey, you cannot know everything all the time. And there's no sense in looking back and say like, well, I could have done this differently. There's only the now moment. Okay, what am I going to change now? If this does not feel right, if I am seeing myself playing a victim here, what it is that I'm hiding? What is it that I don't want to stand up for myself? Like, take me as an example. I mean, I've been having the desire for sharing myself and my viewpoints and my wisdom, whatever we call it. But my perspective on things, I've been wanting to share this for about a year, I think. And I was just looking for various ways how to do that. And this is one of the ways. And coaching, mentoring is another way where I work one-on-one with people. And still I was so often, I had to call myself in that process where I was so often still playing the victim because I was afraid to do something. I was afraid to step out and say like, okay, I have something to say here. I was afraid for rejection, like I talked about in the last video, but especially rejection of myself. That I was not good enough, or that I am not good enough to do these things, or that I'm not able to sell myself for a certain price if that was relevant in that moment. Not that money is relevant, but when you look at different themes, you always have to look at what's underneath it, why you don't do something. So if I feel that I want to do something and I'm not doing it, there is a victim in there, in that process. There is a victim of me holding myself back and saying like, oh well, it's the circumstances. No, I am not good enough. I haven't learned enough. I haven't trained myself enough. They have criticized me. So I can put the blame outside. I can complain. I can complain that I don't have time. I don't have the space in my house to do the videos. I have many, many different, very subtle things where I play the victim. And it's all a victim role. We can name it differently. It doesn't really matter. It helps if you have one clear distinction of what the role is. It really helps to just ask you every time this question: where do I still play the victim in my life? And where you play the victim, you are not free. And I'm all about freedom. Freedom is, and freedom of the inner self. It's freedom to be thriving in this lifetime. It's freedom to share myself in whatever way I like. It's freedom to show up. Whether it's funny, whether it's stupid, whether it's silly, whether it's dumb even, whether it's whatever it is. It's just labels. It's just labels because we give meaning to something. And that translation of what we give meaning to that circumstances decides whether we feel empowered or whether we choose for the other side and play the victim. So if someone is criticizing me after this video, I still have the choice. I just take this as an example. I still have the choice to feel for myself, okay, what does it do to me? Do I choose to let myself be disempowered by this remark from someone, while it's me putting, first of all, a meaning to those words? Secondly, there's always a circumstance and a perspective where that person is coming from. So sometimes we criticize and blame each other or another person because we actually have a different question. We actually have often a question of, please help me, because I can't do it on my own. But it's so more difficult to ask for help. It's so more difficult to ask for reflections from other people because we don't want to hear the reflection. We don't want to hear that we actually are not perfect yet. In our definition of perfection, we are perfect. We're absolutely perfect. But we have created an identity around ourselves. And I definitely will share more about identity. We created this identity around ourselves where we're hiding behind because it feels safe, and it's a false safety. Because underneath this identity, or in the core of this of yourself, in the core of it, there is this beautiful you, this unique you, who's always perfect, but often doesn't show up. So it's always the question, and I'm going to repeat it again, is, and it's really one that really shifts a lot in you if you are open and willing to play with this one. So where do I still play the victim? And where do I blame, or where do I hide myself? So the two different ways of expressing your victim role. And going through your daily life and how you react to information right now, and where you position yourself in all these discussions that are coming up, also defines a lot about where you like to identify with the victim role yourself. Because if we identify ourselves with the victim role of someone else, we do that because we are still the victim there ourselves, in a very different context, probably in a very different way. But we like to confirm that to ourselves, that others are victims as well. Because when others are victims, well, I can be the victim as well. Because it's something that happens in life. So there's no reason to look within. There's no reason to look in the mirror. Because we're all victims, so we can all stay in that role. But what happens when we stay victim? We don't free ourselves, and we are at the mercy of what's happening outside of us. We are at the mercy of what is decided for us. We are not able to open up to other perspectives. Because when you're in a low frequency, you cannot open up your window. You cannot open up to hearing other things. You cannot open up to hearing something that's very confrontational. Now that's again another topic, but just understand that when you're in a victim role, you're in a low frequency, and when you're in a low frequency, the shutters narrow, and you can only see your perspective in that moment. And actually what it is, what you're doing, you feel your pain, and that feels uncomfortable, and you're hiding it with a narrative like, I cannot do anything about this situation. I cannot change it. And they're to blame, or I'm angry with them, or that's the drama of this world, I cannot change it. And of course, yes, we cannot change the complete world. I mean, not one person can change the whole world. But you can change your world. That's your quest, to change your life, your circumstances, your friends. If they don't fit with you and they pull you down all the time, why are you still friends then? So there's so many aspects in life where you can make a conscious choice to make a change. And it's not about there are not enough jobs in this world, so I'm helpless because I'm unemployed. These days there's actually no reason not to find work. And I know this is a very controversial expression, because then we get into the discussion of education, and with low education you have less chance of a job. And that's all part of our system that is based on, in my belief, the wrong parameters. Because it's another discussion, I won't go in that, sorry about that. So see where you play the victim, and try to feel, when you just only admit that to yourself, that you already feel this like sense of relief, like, oh, wow, I can change something. Yes, I can see myself playing the victim. So now I have a choice. What am I going to do now? Oh, that feels scary. Yeah, okay, let's admit that. Let's feel into that. That feels scary. Why does it feel scary? Well, because I feel uncomfortable doing that. Okay, so what's the first step I can do to make myself feel less comfortable or more comfortable? Can I just try something? And we have to get through this uncomfortability. So don't kid yourself that it's going to be easy. I mean, stepping out of these low dense vibes, especially if you've been there for many years, even when outwardly it felt like you are successful and you are happy and you have a social life, and I mean, you have like these moments, let's say 60% of the time or 70% of the time or even 80% of the time. The 20% that you're still playing the victim is constantly pulling you down, is taking the energy out of your system. You literally suck it out of your system, and it's gone, and it's down. It's in a low vibe. And that's why life can be so tiring. And that's why people constantly say, I'm so tired. I'm so busy, I'm so tired, I'm so busy, I'm so tired. So we have to find things where we energize ourselves and feeling empowered, even if it's just a little bit, is so energizing. It's so, especially the first wave, when you really make a shift in this, it's really overwhelming. Like a client of mine just recently shared with me, he said, this is so overwhelming to feel this empowerment. And he had done courageously in overcoming a very traumatic memory from his youth by going into the process of forgiveness. And then he felt literally this wave of empowerment coming over him, and he said, wow, this is, and it never have left him since then. I mean, it's a short time, but still, once you connect it with empowerment, it doesn't leave you. You can always find it back. And I found in my journey that recognizing myself as where I played the victim was the best lesson ever, because that's where I can change something. So I hope this is helpful, and I'd like to see you in the next one. Bye.